Hi Year 10 and welcome back. This is a review lesson, a mini lesson on nucleic acids and proteins. So the first part of this I will review nucleic acids, and then the second part, the next video, will be a review of proteins and some new information about protein structure. So starting with some key terminology, you need to be able to use the terms monomer and polymer fluently and confidently in this topic. Okay, so we're reviewing some content that we learned last term in term 1 and maybe adding a few extra details for you to learn and be able to apply as we go through this next unit of work. So a monomer, remember that monomers are the single building blocks of a large molecule, and they join together to make nice long polymers. Okay, so monomers are the single building blocks, and the polymers are made up of many monomers joined together. So remembering nucleic acids, and this PowerPoint is in your Teams and on LMS for you to download. Nucleic acids, the two types of monomers I need you to be able to describe are DNA, which is probably the most familiar, and you've done some work on that in your core science already. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid, and then you have another polymer, which is RNA or ribonucleic acid. Now both of these are made up of the same monomer. Here down in the corner we have a diagram, a cartoon of a nucleotide, and you'll notice that nucleotide is made up of a pentose sugar. So you'll notice it's a pentagon, 5 corners, 5 sides, and that sugar is deoxyribose in DNA and it's ribose in RNA. Now both DNA and RNA both have a phosphate and they'll both have a nitrogenous base. But here comes another one of the differences between DNA and RNA. In DNA those bases are adenine, thymine, guanine and cytosine, but in RNA there is no thymine. So you'll remember that it was uracil and not thymine that pairs with adenine. Another one of the differences is that DNA is double-stranded, okay? And you'll remember from your core science, it's wound. These double strands are made up of a sugar phosphate backbone and rungs of the ladder, as we talk about, that are actually the nitrogenous bases, and that's a twisted ladder into the double helix that we're familiar with. RNA, on the other hand, tends to be single-stranded. So you can see here we've got a diagram of messenger RNA, which is in your PowerPoint but probably is dropped off the screen here, ribosomal RNA and transfer RNA. And if you remember when we concept mapped gene expression last term, all of these play a part in turning DNA into a protein. So just go through some of the key things that you need to remember. You need to be able to name the monomer and the polymer. Monomer being nucleotides, polymers being DNA and RNA. In addition, I would really like you to know that the monomers are joined together using a reaction called condensation polymerization. Now, condensation is a word that you're familiar with from year 7, and it means, in this context, that the reaction releases water. So if you think about condensation on your window on a cold day when you're inside, that's when we see water appearing as a liquid droplets on the glass. So that should help you to remember that a condensation reaction often releases a small water molecule. The word polymerization literally means to form a polymer from monomers, which is describing exactly what this reaction does. Two other things about this reaction. It needs energy. So to build up a more complex molecule from simple molecules requires an input of energy, and that energy is provided in the form of, available in the form of ATP within the cell. So ATP is needed, water is released, and the bond that forms between those monomers is called a phosphodiester bond. Now you don't need to remember that, but it's a good word to be able to use later on in your science learning. Now there are 2 types of nucleic acids that we talk about. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, and RNA. And I'd like you to be able to cite at least 3 differences between these. Now the sugar is deoxyribose in DNA and it's ribose in RNA. The structure. Now, your DNA, as you'll remember from your core science, it's double-stranded, anti-parallel, and the side posts of the ladder, as we tend to describe it, is made up of the sugar phosphate, and the rungs of the ladder are made up of nitrogenous bases. So you'll see those here. Now we've got our adenine pairing with thymine and our guanine pairing with cytosine. We call the pairing of those nitrogenous bases as complementary base pairing. Okay, so DNA is double-stranded and it's wound into that classic double helix that you'll be familiar with. RNA, on the other hand, tends to be single-stranded. And the other thing about RNA that is different to DNA is that there is no thymine. So you remember that there was uracil instead of thymine to pair with the adenine. Okay, so just in summary, it's important for you to be able to name the polymers, the nucleic acids, and the monomers, the nucleotides. Tell me the differences between those main polymers, and be able to sketch out and draw me a DNA molecule. And remember the parts of the nucleotide. So the sugar, the phosphate, and the nitrogenous base. Okay.